Everyone, Flaming Footy here and welcome back to another YouTube video on the channel. And today guys, we are going to be continuing our 3-game match reviews. Yes, our 3-game match reviews. Here we are today for another very big 3 games. Another very big round 15, probably one of the biggest rounds, or the biggest round that we're going to have this year. So really exciting, and we've kicked it off with 3 brilliant games. First versus second, started us off Melbourne versus Brisbane. Then the Doggies and the Hawks and the Eagles and the Bombers. We learnt a lot from these 3 games. So, as always, let's go ahead and hop right into things. Melbourne versus Brisbane. First versus second, Thursday night footy. So, you couldn't have pictured a better start to open off the round, first versus second. But, well, you couldn't have pictured a much worse score than this. It was disastrous for Brisbane. Melbourne 16-21, 117. Yes, 16-21, 117. Get over the line, 7-11-53. And after a pretty good first quarter for Brisbane, they were left in the dust. So Melbourne, 21 behinds, obviously just showed how much class they had. They were very inaccurate and actually probably could have won this game by close to 100. Beating a team like Brisbane by 100 at the MCG. Now, yes, Brisbane don't play the MCG typically well, but they just didn't really turn up, to be completely honest. And Melbourne, we do know how they play the MCG. Don't worry, these 2 teams will be playing again later, round 23 at the Gabba, which will give Brisbane a bit more of an advantage, and Melbourne probably don't play the Gabba that well, so could be 2 absolute doozies when these 2 teams play each other. But anyway, Brisbane, they got off to the fast start, they kicked the first goal, the Demons kicked the next, and they got another quickie to respond to that. Did the Lions, 2 quickies, before Melbourne got one back late. It was a 1-goal game. Then the second quarter, Melbourne just went bang, 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 as to in the third, to, seal your deal. And then the final quarter, they ran away with the game. At half-time, the game wasn't over, but you could tell by the end of the third quarter, you were like, okay, game over. They were only up by 5 goals, 10, which is 40, but that's still just too much to come back in the last quarter, especially when you've been scoring low for most of the game. And Brisbane were held to 53, a very low score for a team of their calibre. Clayton Oliver, 35 disposals, Bailey Fritsch, 3 goals. McCluggage, 11 tackles, and the 136 fantasy as a result of that. Now to the player stats we go. 136 fantasy for McCluggage, 125 for Jackson. He had to stand up in the absence of Gawn. And did exactly that. Is kind of a way to say it. Didn't do exactly what Gawn did, but he did do a pretty good job. 118 for Viney, 116 for McInerney, 112 for Rich, 107 for Petrarca, 105 for Brayshaw, 102 for Oliver, 92 for Neil Willett, 91 for Jordan, and 90 for Coleman, 88 for the 150th gamer, Harris Andrews. Now, to the goals that we go, 3 for Fritsch. He was best on ground in the goal sense. 2 goals for Jordan, Hipwood, Harms, Pickett, Bedford, Robinson as well. Brown only had the 1 goal. Clayton Oliver, 35 disposals, 34 for Viney, 33 for Rich, 31 for Petrarca, 29 for Brayshaw, 27 for McCluggage, 24 for Jordan, and the big O, Oscar McInerney getting in there with 23 of his own. Marks now 12 for Harris Andrews, 10 for Kadeen Coleman, 8 for Lever, Brayshaw, Rich, and Berry, 7 for Ainsworth. Now tackles we go, 11 for McCluggage, 9 for Jackson, 8 for Neil Bullen and Rayner, and then 7 Viney and Harms. Now the hit-outs we go, 29 for McInerney, 18 for Jackson, 10 for Wiedemann and McStay. And team stats now. The Demons did go inside 50 plenty more times, 19 more times than the Lions. They had more of the footy than the Lions as well, resulting in a win in this one. Now, hit-outs was in favour of Brisbane, but meanwhile the clearances were going the other way. They were going in Melbourne's favour. And Melbourne, they can just burst out the middle. They took way more marks inside 50, take your set shots. They led for most of the game. They actually had 7 rush behinds, contributing to a fair bit of their inaccuracy, but it's a big win for the Demons. They go top of the table, awaiting Fremantle's result with Carlton. And Brisbane, well, they've lost some hefty percentage out of this one. Friday night footy we go. Actually, a bit of an early game, 7 o'clock for Victorian, 6:30 my time, where it is another high-scoring cracker. The Doggies score 125 2 weeks in a row, 19-11, 125. The Hawks, 12-11, 83. The Dogs win by 42 after a brilliant turnaround where they banged on 13 goals in a row. Yes, 13 goals in a row. Now, there is no timeline here, which I don't know why that's not coming up, so I'll just have to refresh. Boom, there we have the timeline. So, the Hawks, they jumped out of the blocks early, kicking 4 goals to 1 in the first term. And then it was the second quarter where the Hawks did kick the first, but the Dogs got crafty. They kicked the next 5, but they kicked 13 consecutive goals in a row. Unanswered goals to walk away big winners. The Hawks, from quarter time to three-quarter time, kicking 1 goal 8. So their inaccuracy was proving costly, especially at three-quarter time, but you knew the game was over at that stage. The Hawks, they look like making a little bit of a late charge, but again, you knew it was over. So now they're just trying to make it look as respectable as possible. It was hovering around a 30-point margin until the Dogs kicked the last few to get it out to 42, but 13 consecutive goals in a row, that does tell you something. 4 goals for Lewis. He is such a big inclusion, and if he wasn't there tonight, this could have been a potential 60 goals, not 60 goal, what am I talking about? 60-point, 10-goal smashing. Jack Macrae, 31 disposals. Marcus Bontempelli, 118 AFL fantasy, 8 tackles for Libba. Libba was actually running really hard defensively as well. Riley West was popped up a lot as well. Now to the player stats we go. Where 118 fantasy for Bontempelli, 112 for West, who was impressive. He also got the 19 disposals, did Riley West. 110 for Libba, 105 for Dunkley, 105 for Moore, 102 for Scrimshaw, 98 for Dale, 97 for Macrae, and 97 for Lewis. You know Macrae does it every week with his massive amount of touches, but Mitch Lewis, 4 goals, 3 for West. He was impressive, as too was Aaron Norton. The ball looked dangerous around him, especially later on in the game. 3 goals for Bruce as well. Shraki, Moore, Johannisen, and Dunkley got 2. Disposed 31 for look at this. 31 for Macrae, 30 for Liberatore, 28 for Dale, 27 for Bontempelli, Treloar, and Dunkley. The highest Hawthorn player was 26 for Scrimshaw, followed by 25 for Warple. 12 marks for Scrimshaw, 9 for Gardner, Sicily, Lewis, 8 for Hayden Crozier, 7 for Shaki, Keith, and Howe. Meanwhile, 6 for Uhagen and Norton. 8 tackles for Liberatore and Dylan Moore. They were putting on some pressure. 7 for Bontempelli. 5 for the big man, Jordan Sweet. And Riley West, who was really impressive, was Riley West, especially in the forward line. He was a small forward looking dangerous. 32 hitouts for Jordan Sweet. 31 for Reeves. So a pretty interesting ruck battle. 6 for Nash. 4 for Kazitsky. 3 for Shaki. And now to the team stats we go, where the Doggies had more of the ball. They went inside 9 more times than the Hawks. Is there anything else looking great? They did get more free kicks in a very low amount of free kicks. The game that the Hawks only got 10 compared to the Doggies 19. The clearances were in favour of the Western Bulldogs as well. They're another team that can just burst out of the middle, just like Melbourne. Their midfielders have capabilities of kicking goals from outside 50. Believe it or not, the Hawks had more marks inside 50. The Doggies led for just a little bit more of the game, but the time they were leading, they were comfortable leaders. 7 goals apiece in the final term, but it's the Doggies by that 7-goal margin on 42 points. Obviously, this match reviews is coming out earlier than normal because there was a second Friday night game, and I'll tell you, West Coast back on track in season 2022. They've just done something mind-blowing, and they've beaten the Bombers. They scored 107, 16-11, 107. The Bombers 14-13, 97. I feel like a lot of people came in thinking, the Bombers will win this. It was at Optus Stadium though, so it did make things just a little bit harder for them, as West Coast do play the ground pretty well. And after last week's narrow loss versus the Cats, they came out and played very well, did the Eagles. Now, they didn't have to lead for the whole game to do it, but ever since halftime, they had that real spark. And the Bombers, they did jump out of the blocks early, kicking 5 goals to 3 in the first quarter. But then West Coast with the response, they kicked 6 goals in the second quarter to the Bombers 2. and that is where they get things going. Now, in the third quarter, it is again even. In fact, 3 goals, 3 apiece. No, sorry, not 3 goals, 3. 4 goals, 3 for the Bombers, 3 goals, 3 for... 4 goals, 3 for the Eagles, 3 goals, 3 for the Bombers. Giving West Coast a handy little advantage at three-quarter time, and then the Bombers never came back from that advantage. The Eagles never gave up that advantage and went on to win the game despite 2 late Essendon goals looking like they were going to come back. But no, they didn't, and the West Coast Eagles get a brilliant win which takes them off the bottom. And how about this for West Coast? It's a really nice story. Josh Kennedy, 5 goals, amazing. Jermaine Jones, 8 tackles, amazing. Zach Merrett, 28 disposals and 118 fantasy. But what about this for West Coast? They needed to win. Perfect time to do it. Friday night footy at your home grounds, under lights. Fantastic time to do it. And they impressed. 118 fantasy for Merrett, as I said, 101 for Hill. 98 for Kelly, 97 for Redden, 96 for Hearn, 94 for Rioli, 93 for Cripps, and 90 for Wright. His presence up forward was dangerous. Josh Kennedy, the 5 goals, accurate, 5 goals, 0. 4 goals, 4 for Peter Rice, so he could have had a big day and influenced the result. Jake Stringer, 3 goals, as to Willie Rioli and Jamie Cripps, and then 2 goals for Darling, Martin, Ryan, Guelphy, and Harrison Jones. Now disposed we go 28 for Merrett, 26 for Shield, 22 for Redden, 21 for Hearn and Shuey, and Redmond and Kelly, 20 for Duggan, Yo, Heppel, Martin, Caldwell, and Hines. Wow, that's a lot of players on the 20 disposed. Now the marks, 12 for Kelly, 10 for Barras, 9 for Hearn, 9 for Duggan, 8 for Warnerman, 8 for Yo, 8 for Rotham, 8 for Wright, 8 for Hines. But yeah, this was good by West Coast. 8 tackles for Jermaine Jones, 7 for Dylan Shields, 6 for Zach Merrett, 4 for Willie Rioli, Jack Redden, and Caldwell. Now 25 disposals, not 25 disposals, so 25 hitouts for Sam Draper, 21 for Williams, 11 for Brian, 5 for Jamieson. Now to the team stats we go, where West Coast were more willing to go by kicks, and Essendon went inside 50 way more times than the Eagles, so didn't have to be pretty, but West Coast did just get the job done, being efficient inside 50 when they went in with a nice efficiency of 62%, and that is important. Clearances and hitouts only favour Essendon as well. Marks inside 50 though was West Coast 18 to 13. West Coast did lead for majority of the game, and they were the better side. They get a ripping win in the West. West Coast 16-11, 107. Essendon 14-13, 97, but it was definitely just built off the back of a brilliant second quarter, and they bang on 16 goals, West Coast, and this could be a change for the second half of the year. After impressing against the Cats and losing by 18, then beating the Bombers, they're now off the bottom of the ladder. This was not a bad performance by West Coast. And you could say an upset too. So there we have it, Melbourne by 64, the Doggies by 42, and the Eagles by 10. Now the stage is set for a ripping Saturday, all in the same match reviews as well. Here we go. Carlton 5th, Fremantle 2nd, Geelong 4th, Richmond 7th, Sydney 8th, St Kilda 9th. This builds up a really exciting day of footy. Saturday, which is today, is going to be a ripping day of footy. I'm just really excited for this day. Probably one of the best days of footy we've had in a long time. May only be the 3 games, but they all mean something. Now North Melbourne go to 18th against the Crows 15th. Collingwood now slide down to 10th against the Giants 13th. Port Adelaide 12th, Suns 11th. So some really important games now. The ladder, there's been obviously some mass changes to that. The Demons go ahead of the Lions 44 points. So the Lions 40, and they've gone down to a percentage of 124.9. The Dockers must win if they want to go equal on points with the Demons. Now the Cats, they can go equal on points with the Lions if they win. Meanwhile, Richmond can go equal on points with the Cats if they win. The Blues, their result is big. They can go equal with the Lions and the Cats if they win. Otherwise, then they could be equal with the Tigers if they lose. The Doggies, well, they're temporarily in the 8, maybe pushed out though, waiting on results from Richmond, Sydney, St Kilda and Collingwood. The Suns need to win against Port Adelaide to keep their season alive. Otherwise, then Port Adelaide will be keeping their season alive. and Gold Coast there, it'll just get that little bit harder for them. Thank you guys all so much for watching. What a ripping round we've got. We've only been 3 games in. All the attention turns to today. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you guys will never miss another video on the channel. Thank you guys all so much for watching. So bye everyone. Flaming Footy out.